What's up, y'all? My name is JR, and for those of you who don't already know, I'm a huge movie and TV nerd. If you're new here, I appreciate you taking the time to check out my channel. I hope you'll consider sticking around and joining the film community I'm trying to build here on YouTube. So in today's video, I'm going to be giving my reaction and review for the A24 horror film, Heretic. And just so you guys know, this video will contain some mild spoilers, so if you haven't gotten around to watching this movie yet and you don't want to know anything that happens in it, you might want to exit this video now. And with that being said, no more wasting time. Let's get into it. Heretic is an American-made psychological horror film written and directed by Scott Beck and Brian Woods. The movie stars Hugh Grant, Sophie Thatcher, and Chloe East, and follows two Mormon missionaries who attempt to convert a reclusive Englishman only to realize he's more dangerous than he seems. Now, the film had its world premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival on September 8th of this year, and was released in the United Kingdom and Ireland on November 1st of this year, and then in the United States by A24 on November 8th of this year. Now, at the time of the making of this video, the movie has a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes based on 222 critic reviews, and the film's popcorn meter currently sits at 77% based on over 1,000 verified ratings. The film has a Metascore of 71 on Metacritic based on 49 critic reviews with a user score of 6.8 based on 57 user ratings. And finally, it has a 7.3 out of 10 on IMDb with almost 14,000 ratings. So, this film initially piqued my interest, mostly because of its themes involving religion. As a religious person, I was deeply interested in what the film would have to say. I wanted to see where the writers would ultimately decide to take the conversation surrounding religion. And again, like I said, what they ultimately decided that they wanted the film to say where that subject was concerned. And so that's why this film kind of shot up to the top of my, go see it list, if you will. And look, after watching the film, I thought that the film had certainly an interesting opening image, right? With the two young women sitting on a bench, with a condom ad on the back of it, ironically, talking about sex, which is something that I would absolutely think that two modern young Mormon women would discuss in this manner, given how prevalent, adult content and, promiscuity and things like that have become in our society. But again, it just felt really ironic. But I did think it was a good start to this particular story. It piqued my interest. Now, a few scenes in, you could absolutely feel the indie vibe of this movie, to the point where you did kind of take a moment to wonder how this film got such a wide theatrical distribution, because it definitely felt like a straight-to-streamer type of film. And I'm saying that not in a negative context. I'm merely talking about the film's aesthetic, not its narrative or its commercial value. I thought the casting was pretty good, considering how the film plays out, certainly. More on that in a second. But I thought the acting was serviceable by the two young actresses. And of course, Hugh Grant was fantastic, single-handedly kind of, taking the film from, its inciting incident on through to the end. And, ratcheting up the film's tension kind of minute by minute. He did an absolute job at kind of playing this maniacally evil antagonist, person. You know what I mean? I thought the small writing was pretty well done, especially when it came to the part of the film where Mr. Reed breaks down how all of religion is derived essentially from the same story, and they just kind of changed the characters in order to make the story more palatable by different cultures, and how it's ultimately used as a control mechanism. Because that part of the script has to be precise. I paid really close attention to what he was saying when that part of the film came up, where he did the kind of multimedia presentation on religion, because I understood that as a writer, you would have had to done extensive research just to write that part of the film. And there wasn't going to be a whole lot of room for error. And it certainly wasn't going to be a whole lot of room for you to be wrong about anything in order for that particular part of the dialogue to do what it was meant to do within the narrative of the overall film, right? Because if you get anything there wrong, or even if you slant something slightly wrong here or there, that's going to be all people talk about when they talk about the film, is how you try to make a movie about religion and didn't know what you were talking about. So I thought the writers did a pretty decent job there. Now, where the story beats are concerned, I thought the film was okay. The moment the two girls chain their bikes up on Mr. Reed's fence and they knock on his door, you can feel the tone of the film shift rather sharply. You know, the film being marketed as a horror film notwithstanding, right? And once the young women enter the house, you could feel the anxiety grow throughout the theater as you're watching the people around you kind of watch what's happening. And as, you know, Mr. Reed claims to have a wife, and the young women continue to insist that she be present in the room, from that moment, I knew that at least one of the young women would die inside the house. But, you know, which one? And that brings me to the presentation on Christianity and the two doors, one marked belief and the other marked disbelief. Now, you know, this was kind of a role reversal in the sense that, you know, the young missionary women were there to convert him to the Mormon faith. Or at least start him on the road to conversion. And it became really clear really quickly that what he was there to do was to poke holes in their belief in their own religion. And I will say that at a certain point in time, you kind of go, well, maybe this doesn't, you know, devolve into a situation where someone's got to get murdered. Maybe this is just a guy who's bored, who just goes, hey, you know, you guys are Mormon young women, and I study religion. Basically, that's all I do. I'm here to just show you how you're wrong. And, you know, I was like, well, maybe this is kind of one of those things where the girls just feel threatened. And maybe even to the point where they assault this man who was never really going to do very much to them, but just kind of dig into their religious beliefs. But that is not what happened, right? The presentation on Christianity and the two doors, one marked belief and the other marked disbelief. Now, each of the women chooses different doors. And I think that was done to show you the different personalities of the women, right? I think the fact that Sister Barnes, played by Sophie Thatcher, wanted to purposely be antagonistic towards Mr. Reed, and that's why she chose the door that she chose. And Sister Paxton, played by Chloe East, kind of wanted to please Mr. Reed, and that's why she chose a completely different door. She chose the door she thought Mr. Reed wanted her to choose. But alas, both doors lead to the same place, the basement, which I 1,000% expected. Now, where things kind of took a left turn for me as far as what I was expecting to happen was when this woman, this older woman, walks out and, you know, eats the pie, she dies, and you go, okay, yeah, this is, all right, what's going on here, right? Needless to say, a lot happens down in the basement, and these things are all kind of meant to test the young women's faith. And as the film goes on, you kind of learn that Sister Barnes isn't exactly who she has comported herself to be, especially after it's thought, you know, she's thought to be dead, and Mr. Reed comes down into the basement and he digs out an implant that's supposed to keep her from, you know, becoming pregnant. And you're thinking, well, why would a Mormon girl need birth control? you know, So in other words, you know, he shows, you know, Sister Paxton that, yeah, your homegirl is not who she said she was, right? Now, I will say this. I wasn't surprised, especially given the conversation that was had in the film's opening image. And because she ends up being the one who dies in the house, I wonder if the filmmaker was meaning to say that she was more deserving of death because her belief was somehow less than that of Sister Paxton's. And before you try to come at me in the comments, try to keep in mind that as a filmmaker, you can't control what the audience takes from your film, whether it's intended or not, right? All you can do is try to make your characters' words and actions as clear as you can, and the rest is completely out of your hands. Once the film is in the can, you kind of have to let it go and let the people who watch your film come to their own conclusion. Now, as for the twist or the great revelation, that being the fact that Mr. Reed has a gang of people locked in cages on a lower level of the house, then the basement did surprise me. I have to go ahead and say that. Mostly because I thought there was more than enough meat on the bone of this story with just Mr. Reed and the two young women, so I didn't expect for things to go even further, but they did. And, you know, if you've seen the film to its conclusion, then you know that Sister Barnes ultimately does die protecting Sister Paxton, who manages to escape in the morning, the blizzard outside having subsided after spending the night in Mr. Reed's House of Horrors. Now, overall, I'd give this film a 65%, or a 6.5 if you're thinking IMDb score. I thought the film was smartly written, with both the macro and micro writing working well in tandem to progress the overall narrative. I thought the story beats progressed in a way that felt similar to what you would expect from a horror film like this one, with the only real big question being whether Mr. Reed really means the young missionaries who show up at his door harm, or whether he's simply intent on proving a point about their religious beliefs. Again, I thought the acting was good, with Hugh Grant being the real engine that pushed the story down the track, expertly adding to the ever-building tension throughout the film, and the ending was about what I expected. Now, again, I gotta warn you, if you haven't seen this film, but I don't know why you'd be watching this video to this point if you haven't, but if you haven't, this film will challenge the idea of religion and its usefulness in modern society. And so if you're a Christian, or if you have any kind of religious belief, this might be something that's kind of triggering for you, and you might find some of the thematic ideas difficult to digest. But from a narrative standpoint, I personally thought the film went to church. But what do you guys think? Have you seen Heretic yet? If you have, what did you think about the way it went about positing its points about religion? Let me know in the comments. And for those of you that might be new to the channel, be sure to like and share this video. If you really like the content, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. That way you'll be notified whenever I drop a new video. You can also support the channel now by leaving a super thanks. If you should feel so inclined, I'd greatly appreciate it. Also, be sure to go and check out themadScreenwriter.com for more television and film reviews and info on my upcoming film projects. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I got screenplays to write. And I'll catch y'all on the next video.